Okay. So Puppy has calmed down and he got his little playtime and he's feeling much better. I was talking about the different stitch markers I put in on Starflake to help me keep it sorted out what I needed to do at which point. My red round reduce stitch markers are signaling where I do my decreases. And then I have a second marker, which is a green triangle. And because there are points at the zigzags here on this starflake, I put the green triangle at the point. Green is for growth or growing, and those are the places where I do my increases. So round red reduce and green point increase sort of helped, but I ended up still needing to write up my pattern in color coding so that I would not get my pattern repeats wrong and do too many of the wrong stitch in the wrong place. Yeah, that's life. Now, when I indicated that I was not going to continue working with the Knitters Guild Association Master Hand Knitter program, and I also indicated that I was trying to keep my stash down to a size where it fit in a single dresser drawer, I hadn't collected all of the yarn that I purchased to make swatches and samples for the Knitters Guild into my stash because it was stored someplace else. Well, as I've been going through things to reduce and downsize and plan and whatever, yes, that stash was moved to a central location, and my stash drawer runneth over. I have too much. I haven't bought any more yarn that since I made the decision to limit my stash size, but I've actually already exceeded that stash size because I didn't have it all stored correctly. Well, that just means I need to keep knitting and keep using up stash, and eventually it will all fit. The advantage to the TKGA yarn is it's worsted weight, and worsted weight knits up really, really quickly. It's in pastel colors. I'm not really in a pastel kind of mood, but you use what you have, you do what you can, and you just keep going. So that's where we are. And if I am not at this point okay, what I can see is in the future, I will be okay. So think positive and keep knitting. And keep knitting because knitting makes you happy. Hello, my name is Jean and I am a knitter. I put my regular video up on Tuesday and then realized because I'd been a bad video editor and hadn't verified things that I really should have verified, that the sound dropped out for 3 minutes in the middle. So I took it down. We're starting over. That's not the only thing we're starting over. I've been hinting that there's something going on in my personal life, and my husband and I are splitting up, and we are hoping to keep it a very amicable separation and divorce, and that is our long-term goal. But in the meantime, I knit because knitting makes me happy. It finally warmed up a bit. It's not going to stay warmed up. I do live in Wisconsin, after all, but today's high is going to be somewhere around 45 degrees. And happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Happy, happy, happy. Hubby's cooking, and he's a really good cook. So, what's up? Yes, I have been knitting a lot. This is what happens to women who knit too much. But this is not a knitting injury. This is an old, as they say, dog-related injury, because when we had a very large dog and a very small dog, the small dog had to stay on his leash when he was at the dog park because the fencing wasn't good enough to keep him contained. He could zip under it quite easily, and we did not want that. So little dog is on his leash, big dog is out running around, and the three of us met in a tangle that ended up with me on the ground trying to catch myself with one hand, and it didn't go very well. It's, excuse me, it's old, it acts up. I wear a brace, I put some cream on it, it gets better, I keep knitting. I had been planning on reviewing some of the applications that are used to support people who want a little technical assistance while they work through their knitting patterns. Maybe they are designing things, maybe they are trying to translate a tricky bit of a chart into something, maybe they are just in need of something that will keep track for them. And a couple weeks ago, I spoke about a couple of them that I'm not going to talk about again because of life and what's going down. I haven't had a chance to go in depth on many, if any. And so I wanted to give you an update on what I had been looking at. The first application is called Knit Visualizer. And the price for that is more than I would pay for a sweater's worth of hand-dyed yarn. I'm terribly sorry, my budget does not cover that. I will also say I am not a YouTube star that is going to be receiving copies of software to assess, evaluate, and report back on without me paying for them. And I don't expect that. So no, I am not going to be talking about Knit Visualizer. The second application I looked at is called Envisioknit, and it's about half the price of Knit Visualizer, and no, it is still not in the budget. Same statements, same reasoning. Intwined is potentially within budget goals, but I'm going to see if I can find some test versions or something else before I start laying out money for knitting software, knitting apps, knitting support systems. The next one would be Pattern Genius. And I am really looking forward to testing that one because it is created by the same programmers that create Knit Companion, which is an application that I use and I love it. So I'm looking forward to testing Pattern Genius. I also looked at one that is called Knit Pro Plus, and from what I could read and the notes I jotted down, it says it will create a chart from a picture. Picture? And I'm just kind of freaking out at that because I used to use software like that to take photos and turn them into cross-stitch charts. And my problem with that was it created a chart that was so detailed, it was not practical to use. The last one I looked at is called Knitrino, and that's a possibility, but it has phases and stages, and it also is designed to take a very beginning knitter and guide them through the process of reading the chart or the pattern to learn how to do certain knit stitches and create things with their knitting needles and yarn. Well, I don't actually need that right now. I'm already a knitter, thank you very much, and I've solved many of these basic problems a long time ago. So those are the knitting applications that I am currently thinking about addressing, looking at addressing, deciding not to address. But there's a lot out there, and I have heard of several others that I would also like to address because they're used by people whose knitting skills I value, and I feel they're going to be helpful. Now, let me see. I'm doing something interesting. I have figured out a way, but I can't teach it yet, to carry the non-working yarn up inside. Nope, that wasn't it. There's a twist to it, and I have to carry the non-working yarn up inside the 3-stitch I-cord border so that you don't have these long, weird floats happening. And yeah, that's probably where I'm going to go next with some of my practicing. But I'm finding that it works. I can see what I carried before versus what I'm carrying differently. And I like the way I am incorporating it inside my idiot cord, but I haven't got it down to the point where I could clearly describe the technique. I continue to work on the Stephen West former mystery knit along shawl that is called Starflake. And yeah, it's got its pluses. Yeah, it's got its minuses, but it's actually going pretty well. I have a little trouble with some of his directions because even using Knit Companion, I get lost in them because of the way the pattern repeats are written down and I don't keep track correctly. So, one of the things I did was I jotted down my pattern and I color coded it. So, if I am working with the blue yarn, my pattern is written in blue. And if I am working with the pink yarn, my pattern is written in red. So I don't have the CCMC. Wait a minute, which one is which? Because quite frankly, if you're only using 2 colors and they're very balanced the way they are in this shawl, it does not register with my brain which is the main color and which is the contrast color, because they're both the same, for crying out loud. The other thing that I did when working with this particular pattern was I color and shape coded the stitch markers that I placed on the needles that are very important in Stephen's designs. You tend to knit to the marker and then do something, and when I am decreasing red round, reduce, those are my decreases. Okay, yes, puppy, what do you want? There will be a brief pause.